Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Okay.
I guess I should do video. There we go.
Excuse me there, the cat wanted to join the meeting, so.
Of course. She's always here.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And thank everyone for being here all this evening. And we have the town board as guests this evening. So during the presentation on the ordinances here. We just have one quick order of business beforehand. We need to approve the minutes from the last meeting, which was from February of last year. And so has everyone on the board had a chance to look those over? Are there any changes, additions, corrections? Hearing none, can I entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
This is Rose.
And we have a second.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting the minutes?
Who made the
raise your hand,
second?
say aye. Pardon?
Who made the second?
Alan.
Okay. Okay, and Boyd, I need to call roll on this.
Okay.
Okay, so when I call your name, just yes or no. Dawn,
Yes.
Boyd,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Jeffrey.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so the minutes are accepted. Do we have anyone for public comment that you know of, Amanda?
No, sir.
Okay. In that case, we will move on to the new business, the zoning ordinance update presentation. And Paige, I will, if you don't mind, town manager, turn that over to you to introduce that, please.
Certainly. Thank you all for being here. This is a project that I'm really excited about. Our zoning ordinance was adopted in 1998, and we've made a lot of amendments to it since then. Several years, it's probably been 4 years ago now, we started working to have the code heavily reviewed and to be sure that we were ready for upcoming developments that were going to happen in the town. We worked with Friction Shift last year, or 2019, to do an ordinance review and then an assessment that you all have seen the documentation on. Then the legislature is requiring updates for their 160D section. So back in the summer, we bid the project out and contracted with Withers Ravenel. And we've got Meredith Gruber here to go over the presentation for this project.
Thank you, Paige. Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith Gruber from Withers Ravenel, and I've brought with me Karen Mallow from my team. She's fantastic with ordinances, so she may be popping in to help with any tough questions that you all have. I do have a presentation, and this is the only part that makes me nervous, is sharing my screen and making sure that all works. So let's give it a go. I'm going to do this one. How does that look?
Good.
Good. Fantastic.
Good.
Fantastic. Well, again, thank you so much for having us tonight. Excited to be here and to kick off working with you all. Paige mentioned that your ordinance was adopted in 1998, and our team has been pleased to see what a nice job you all have done with the ordinance assessment. And we are going to use that assessment as a key piece as we move forward with your ordinance rewrite. There are a few reasons for doing this rewrite. First, we need to streamline your ordinance based on that assessment that was done. One of the recommendations that is in your assessment is to create a hybrid form-based code. And traditional zoning is based on use, and a form-based code is used to achieve a specific urban form. For example, let's say in your downtown, you have a series of 2 to 3 story buildings, and that form feels really nice. When you walk by that, it has a certain human scale, and it creates a building frontage on the street, and you want to continue that type of design or spread that out further to meet other sections of your community. So you might use a form-based approach to make that happen. You would say, okay, if you develop this site, this infill site, or this site adjacent to downtown, the form has to match what's there. The use becomes less important. Mix of uses is often achieved with that form-based or hybrid form-based type code. Paige also mentioned these things called 160D requirements. They are planning and zoning statutes, and there are a lot of required items that have to be included in your ordinance by the end of June this year. Some of the things in the 160D requirements, certain elements, there's some new updates about lawsuits, conflicts of interest statements, conditional use zoning, and there's some terminology changes that will make terminology consistent across the state. And with conditional zoning, or I think I saw in your ordinance that you use conditional use permits, that language will no longer be allowed. It will be a special use permit. And then conditional zoning is allowed, but it does remove the two-step process. And conditional zoning is like a rezoning. It could be the same district. It just includes special conditions that have to be offered by the applicant. And those can be successful because they can offer you all some level of comfort that the development you'd be getting meets the needs of your community. So our project starts now with a kickoff meeting, and it will end in June with approval of the ordinance rewrite. There are some key tasks. Again, starting now with the kickoff meeting. I've underlined where the Board of Commissioners and the Planning Board will be most involved now as we're getting started. And then we need the Planning Board to be involved in a mid-project review. We're looking at March for that. And then again in June, I mentioned approval is important. And you can certainly stay involved the entire time, but we definitely need the Planning Board involved in March. I've heard that an item of interest for you all is B2 and B3 zoning. Your ordinance assessment noted that these two districts are really similar and sort of hard to differentiate. So with your ordinance rewrite and update, we can combine B2 and B3 zoning into a corridor commercial type district, or we can figure out some way to distinguish them, and we'll work with you all to figure out what's best for that. Also been told that Highway 107 is your major commercial corridor, and there's a widening project going on. I know that's been delayed till 2025, and it's a DOT project. However, we believe that the right-of-way acquisition could start in June. So as we think about what's going on there, we can consider the implications of that road widening, and if we need to tweak anything with zoning to have the best looking development along that corridor. So again, your responsibilities, stay involved, give us feedback, especially at that March midpoint review, and let me know what questions you have about the project, and Karen and I are here to answer them. And I will stop sharing if I can figure that out. I like to see everyone's face.
I have a question.
Okay, great.
Is this presentation available in a document that we can have?
Sure. What I just showed you was a PDF of a PowerPoint, because PDFs are easier to send around. So I'm happy to share the PDF. Actually, I think Paige has it.
Yes, we'll email that after the meeting.
Thank you.
What else?
So I have just a sort of general question, and pardon my ignorance on this, but this is more than just a reformatting of our ordinances, right? So like the county did this, and when I try to look up some of the county ordinances, and I go to their website, I see the Municode link and the UDO link, and I don't really know like which one to use for what. I mean, I guess it's like the Municode gets phased out and the UDO just totally replaces that eventually, or is there still some use of the previous ordinance formatting?
The UDO, David, was adopted, and the UDO is a standalone document that codifies all the development-related ordinances. The county also has a raft of other ordinances that are not codified within that. The Municode doesn't go away. The UDO got moved when it was adopted onto the Municode and is an appendix of all the codified ordinances that are development related. Things that are not in there in the UDO would be noise ordinance, junk car ordinance, other things that like the sheriff's department would be involved with, or other agencies, health department or otherwise, that are not fall under a planning, zoning, building inspections, or environmental health type of, or erosion control type of administration. So think of it as the UDO being a standalone ordinance within the county's block of ordinances that we just streamlined it, put it together, created a whole raft of definitions from those ordinances that were all overlapping and different and so forth. So it's part of our Municode clearinghouse, so to speak, that's on there.
Okay, so it doesn't replace it. It just takes some stuff from it, puts it in the UDO. You still have the ordinances from before, and so it'll still be. And I didn't notice this for the county. It's in the Municode system too, because I really like the way you can search for things in the Municode. So it's still put into that sort of format as well. Yeah. Okay, that's great.
And another reason for doing this now, it's aside from the legislative requirements, is we're supposed to recodify about every 10 years, and we did it in 2013. So if we have this ordinance revised, then we have it ready to go the next time we use Municode or American Legal or whatever catalog online system for ordinances.
Meredith, could you elaborate a little bit on the 160D requirements? Like what is that?
Sure. I'll start and then I'll let Karen jump in if she'd like to. So the 160D requirements, actually I'll hold up. I have a checklist from the UNC School of Government that has, let's see, 15 pages of items that have to be checked in your ordinance to see if they are, if they need to be revised. There are several things that are required, like terminology, updates to standard procedures for some boards and commissions. Like I said, there's certain language that have to do with special use permits, conditional zoning, and some site-specific conditions. Either categories for legislative decisions, quasi-judicial decisions, administrative decisions, and there's a vested right and permit choice piece that we'll have to check. So what we do is we go through your ordinance, see what language has to be updated, see what items have to be updated, and we look for inconsistencies and correct those things. And I'll let Karen add anything else because she does a lot of work on these types of projects.
Hi. So I just want to echo exactly what Meredith said. Basically, the legislation took 160D. It's a combination of some older ordinances at the state level, and they combined them just to make it easier to use, easier to read. It consolidated a lot of these ordinances into one place. So now 160A and a couple of other things were incorporated now all into just one place. So it takes a lot of the development ordinances throughout the state code and puts them in one place. It also incorporates session law from 2020 that was adopted later. And so there's already been updates to 160D since it passed 2 years ago. So, or I guess a year and a half ago at this point. So again, it's constantly evolving and changing. So the checklist that Meredith referenced has already been updated. We're going to go through your ordinance. We use this as a basis. But Meredith did touch on all of the big items that changed. Again, for municipalities, the biggest change sometimes is just wrapping your head around the change in terminology, such as conditional use to special use. And then there's some decisions that you will have to make. One of the things that it does is gives, just for an example, it gives municipalities the power to say, give an administrator the power to change something minimal on a special use permit, what you traditionally called a conditional use permit. So that would give you like your zoning officer or again, whoever you decide to be your administrator, gives them the power to make those changes. You don't have to give them to them. It's usually the Board of Adjustment or your town council, but you can give that to an administrator. So there's just some of these little tweaks that can change the procedures or the way that things have been done in the past, or you can keep them the same. But we'll give you a good outline of what those changes are for 160D. And again, this is only in light of all the other changes that you have requested and have made. I mean, these will be minor, but they will bring you into compliance with the law.
It also
Thanks,
requires a comprehensive land use map, correct, to be adopted?
Yes, you have longer to do that. You have until July 1st of 2022.
Right.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Okay. I know that in looking through, did everyone get the attachment with the notice that has the information, all of that had a chance to look it over ahead of time?
Yes.
It goes through a lot of this, but it's and there's also a lot of inconsistencies and duplications and all in the current code that this will help solve as well. And there is a list of all of that there in the document.
At the risk of potential embarrassment, I feel like I've just started swimming in the middle of something, but I'm not exactly sure where I'm swimming. So could I get I read what we received before, and I've certainly paid attention to this presentation, but could I get an overview of where we are now and where we would like to go?
Yes, I'll try to do that. So I think part of this started before you started on the planning board, Dawn, and Jeffrey and Melissa also at this point. Several years ago, we realized we kept having issues with our most restrictive districts being adjacent to our least restrictive districts, and some density issues. I felt like every time we had an apartment complex that was coming to the town board or changes to any kind of request for a zoning ordinance amendment or a text amendment, it was small issues that could be fixed with a code, with the code overall. Like if we straightened out our density requirements, or if we changed something in a district that seemed like it was outdated. I guess that's the best way to say. We kept running into things that overall just needed a fresh set of eyes from the planning side to be sure that we were being fair with our ordinances, to residents and businesses and make sure they were up to speed with all the changes that have been happening in the development world. I think especially with apartment complex requests, we realized this, and knowing how development was happening along Skyland Drive and how it's going to happen along 107 when the road is widened.
And just to add to that a little, it seemed like we were always just one step behind when different requests would come in. So this might help us get more proactive with the ordinances and things. So,
Thank you.
John, is there anything that you want to add to this?
No, I think I'm
Use it the
excited
most?
to get moving on it. It's been a long time coming. I know we've been talking about this for a year. So it's been, I'm happy to see some movement on it. And obviously I'll be involved as much as you want me to be on this. We're already going through ours here at the county level. So, might be able to offer some insight to that along the way.
And happy birthday.
Thank you.
How far along are you guys in your process, John?
We're just getting started. We're going through legal. We between Mike Post and myself and Heather Baker, we got a jump start on that. We knew it was coming. So with our UDO process that we were dealing with a couple of years ago, we knew that some of this stuff was going to be coming down the pike anyway. So we were able to build that in to our UDO changes before that was adopted. And then now we're having to go back. Since the UDO has been adopted, it's easier for us to go back, make those simple changes that cover those codified ordinances without too much trouble and skipping from ordinance to ordinance. So we're moving in that direction to get all that squared away. But we're, I don't want to say we're 50% into it, but we're less than that. But we got a pretty good leg up on it.
I have a question, kind of a rookie question, but what are the ordinances between the town and the county? I mean, how do they talk to each other? How do they interact? And how do they become subordinate to the other, if at all?
Well, and Paige, jump in here anytime. The town, there's two different forms of government, obviously, the town and the county. The town contracts with the county to do their planning and zoning. So we act as the zoning administrator if it is within the town limits. Unless they have adopted a county ordinance to be administered in their limits, we're just administering whatever the town has adopted as their zoning document. So the county is not, the two forms of government are separated. It's just basically staff that is either enforcing county ordinances in the county or town ordinances in the town. We're hired gun, I guess you could say.
Okay.
And then is it true that if there's a conflict in the ordinances between the county and the town, that the more stringent one applies then?
No, because there wouldn't be. The town would have to adopt the county ordinances as their own. The two don't overlap. So if I'm looking at a subdivision in the town, I'm applying the town's ordinances to that. I'm not applying the county's ordinances to that, regardless if they're more stringent or not in the county. It's gonna fall, if it's in the town limits, that they are their own entity, they are their own government, and they, are dictating what's going on in the town limits. It's not the county at that point.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Good questions there. Anything else, anyone? Okay. Is there anything else, Paige or Meredith?
No, it's great to meet you all virtually, and we look forward to continuing to see your faces either on the screen or in person if things become safe to gather.
That would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Looking forward to moving ahead with this. That'll be great.
Thank you.
Oh, I did neglect to welcome Jeffrey Hirsch here, his first meeting here. So welcome, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Yes, we're very glad to have you.
Thank you, Paige.
Hopefully before too long, we'll be able to meet in person again. So.
Sure. I might see you on the street, but with a mask on, who knows?
Does anyone have anything else then?
So at this point, we're not getting in any specifics. This is just sort of an introduction about what's going to be happening.
Yes, that's correct. Introduction to what's going to be happening. We'll be looking to set up some stakeholder interviews sometime soon. I know you all did a great job with the community engagement when you did the ordinance assessment. So we have a ton of that to use for what we're working on, but there'll be a couple of topics we'll want to discuss further with some people. So that'll be coming up. And Karen and I will be working on putting together the first draft for review in the next month.
And you said March timeframe.
Yes.
Okay. And of course, town board members, you're welcome to the planning board meetings at any time. So.
What should we be doing for homework?
Well, I would look at the ordinance assessment if you haven't already done that, but I bet you've already looked at that. I don't know.
I would recommend board members review their ordinance, the current ordinances, so they know what the changes would be coming, and just get familiar with when we do come, when staff does come before them, that they familiarize themselves with what the ordinance currently says, and then they'll have more of an idea of some of those revisions that are and amendments that are coming down the pike here soon.
I have two sets. One has yellowed editions, mostly with like food trucks and that kind of thing. Is that the more current one I should be looking at?
That I'm not sure.
Yes, that's the version of the ordinance with the food trucks in it.
Chapter 38, it says with markup, and that's mostly with the food truck division.
Yes.
A couple other small things. Okay.
Well, let's see. I'm not sure if that's the date it was. What's the date on that version?
November 13th of last year.
I mean,
The other one, the date is, well, they're both dated November 13th. Yeah, they're both dated November 13th.
So they're both the same copy. One shows the markup that changes over the history. The other one does not have markup that I gave you.
Okay.
Amanda, the ordinance assessment that was linked in your email, it appears to be a draft assessment. Is there a final ordinance assessment from Friction Shift?
That is the final one. We just never removed the draft. The consultant ended up breaking her foot and taking another job, and COVID happened and we didn't finalize it. But I wanted to get the draft out last summer before, well, I wanted to bid it in June. So that's why it's still a draft. We can probably remove that watermark, but that is the final document.
So the town can make changes to that. It doesn't need the original compiler's permission to do so.
Well, I would need them to make the changes, but it could be removed.
Anything else, anyone? If not, thank you all for being here and joining the meeting, and we'll pick up again here in March and see where we are from there. So thank you, Paige and Amanda, for your help with this.
Thank you all. I'm excited about getting this project going.
Okay.
We are too. We look forward to working with you all.
Okay. Do I have a motion, we adjourn?
I'll make
So
that.
moved. Yep, I'll second.
Okay, heard a motion and a second there. All those in favor? Yeah,
Dawn? I need to call the roll.
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
Boyd,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Alan,
Yep.
Melissa,
Yes.
Jeffrey.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.